Hello everyone. So there are many aspirants out there who are trying to get into generative AI these days. For them, they need to start somewhere. There are many programming languages out there, but Python is very popular and most of the community using Python. So I thought of teaching Python fundamentals for generative AI. So the foundations are the most important. So I could rename it as Python Foundations for Gen AI, but for simplicity, I'm calling it as Python for Gen AI. So this is a very simple basic course where you have only 5 chapters, in which the chapter 1 is about introduction to Python, so the basic fundamentals. Then we get into data structures and file handlings. Then we step forward for object-oriented programming. Then we see some of the popular libraries that we use for AI. And then I propose a capstone project where you can apply your learning to build something as a project and you can add it to your portfolio. So let's get into it. So you can actually review the chapters. So we are going to review this chapter 1 now. So instead of me going over here, what I did is I want to give you a hands-on where you also can try things out, experience for yourself, and then practice. For that, you can install your Python version on your computer, but for us to very quickly start, you can either use a Google Colab notebook or Kaggle. I'm preferring Kaggle. So that's why I open a new notebook, starting this notebook name 01, representing chapter 1 for generative AI. So we are going to get into this with just introduction to Python. Okay, so let's start with a simple story. So there was a popular Gen story on empty your cup. So one day, a European professor visiting a Japanese Gen master. So he came there to learn about Gen, but the Gen master identified something in him, and then they started conversing and sat down for drinking tea. Then the Gen masters put 2 cups out there and pouring this tea into 1 cup. Even though it's filled, he didn't stop pouring. It keeps on pouring. And the professor saw that for a while and he couldn't resist to ask us, Master, that is already full. Why are you pouring? Then the Gen Master replied, yes, exactly. So when you have your opinions or prejudice, then you can't fill with the new knowledge. First, you need to empty your cup so that it may be filled. So then the professor realized. So in order to learn something new, you need to start fresh as a white paper or an empty cup to fill the tea. With that, so start fresh. So we are doing everything from scratch. So you will, even though you don't know anything about Python, you can actually learn this. So it's a skill, it can be acquired. It's not a talent that we born with, but we learn and we get skilled. Okay, now, so I prepared a few slides for us to get started. So Python for Gen AI, a foundational course. So how can we review this? So first learn what is Python. So Python was first introduced in 1989 by Von Rossum, and since then it's very famous. Like, we have in 2020 a revolution happened mostly on Python. So everyone uses Python, like Google, Meta, all these popular companies, and as well as all the new startups, because of its simplicity. For example, so if you want to print a simple string like hello world, it's very easy, like, one liner. But in any other programming language out there, you have to define a lot of things before you do something like this. So that's grabbed everyone attention with the simplicity and ease of use, and everyone built on top of this. And so let's see the features of it. So it's so easy, so readable, like, it's like plain English, and very simple to understand because of its fewer lines of code or whatever it is. So, and it is open source, so you can read the code, understand, tweak it, modify it. That's the freedom that you get with Python. Then why Python for AI, artificial intelligence? Because of its simplicity. Syntax is straightforward, making it easy to learn and use. That's what we are going to understand. So we learn this and we build things with this. And you have extensive libraries. You try something in any field, you'll get a library for that. For AI, we have TensorFlow, PyTorch. For machine learnings, we use scikit-learn. So there are plenty of other libraries. It's not exhaustive, that what I said, but a lot out there. And you'll get great community support. Whatever the library that you take, and if you're stuck somewhere, if the code is breaking, you just ask somewhere, for example on Stack Overflow or the community's question and answer section. Then the people with curious minds and expertise come back to you and answer your questions. And its versatility. Python is not just limited to AI. You can do anything with it, like web development, data analysis, automation, and more. So call any field, you can apply Python. Call any field, you can apply AI. If you learn Python and AI, you can survive. And it's not just survival, but you can take over any domain, and you can apply your knowledge and build very cool and groundbreaking things with this. So let's dive in and start coding in Python. Okay, so you can try this if you want to um, get started. So let me add the link for you. Yeah, so if you want to try with me, you can click on this link, and that will open, you know this page, and you can click on this link to open a Kaggle notebook, and then you can try things with me. Okay, so Basic syntax. As I mentioned before in the slide, so printing is straightforward. So print, then open brackets, we want to pass a string. For that we use quotes, and between them you write something that is your string and it will be printed. So let's try that. So print is a default function in Python, and it will take input as a string and then prints that output. As you can see, you can see this hello world, right? So that's so simple. And go check yourself in Google or somewhere printing something like hello world in Java or C. What's it? You identify the difference and put that in your comments. Okay, then uh, let's review the variables and data types in Python. So in Python we use variables to store the data, and we have various types of data types, and the popular ones are like integers, the whole numbers, and floating point numbers like decimal numbers 3.14, 2.5, and then strings, as I just mentioned before, something within the quotes. You can use single quotes, double quotes, and triple quotes for that. And booleans, those are logical values, true or false statements, right? So let's try these variable assignments and see what their data type. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm assigning the variable here. Variable is age, and the value that I'm assigning to it is 25. You can apply any number, and then what I want to see is I want to see what age variable contains and then what it is type. Let's see. Okay, so we have assigned 25 and the print statement is printing 25. That's good. And the type of age is int, means integer. Okay, that's how you can verify your code. So I'm leaving it that for you. Like, you can try print by and print type of by, that will tell you this information. So leaving that up to you. So try that out and test for yourself. And then this is assigning a floating point number to pi, and let's assign a string. So variable is name, value is Alice, and then the boolean value is student or not. If this is true, that means student is right, true. Based on that we make some decisions in future. When we use control flow statements, we might use this kind of details. Okay, now, so that's all about variables and their different types over here, data types. And then we just go over control flow statements like conditional statements and loops, as I just mentioned before. So here we see the if condition, like this particular code. So we are assigning this variable temperature with the value 20, and if the temperature is more than 25, then print this, otherwise print this. If else, this is what we are trying to learn, the conditions, and then based on the condition validation, then we want to print something out of it. Okay, so that's for if and else. And this is syntax, if your condition, this might become true or false, and then you use colon, and then with indentation like 4 spaces or 1 tab, you write something over here, the logic that you want to execute on its validation. If this condition fails, then that means else you do something over here. So that's how you control your conditional flow statements. Okay, similarly you have for loops like for and while, right? So if you want to print something, definitely, like for a certain number of times you want to repeat that, then you can use for loops. So this is a for loop example. What you can see over here is for I in range of 3. That means range is a default Python function. What it gives you is a list of 3 numbers like 0, 1, 2. Then for all of that, like I, when I is 0, I is 1, I is 2, then you print that value. And if and then what also we are doing is let's simplify this. Okay, so let's print for loop, then you understand it. So this is what we started with. Let's try if else condition. So temperature variable is set to 20 and we want to see this, whether this or this prints. Okay, since this value is 20 and this condition fails and the execution comes over here and prints this statement, which is this, and the logic is working right. Similarly for loop, let's try that. For I in range 3, print that. Okay, so count is set to 0 and you wanna update the count is equals to +1. This means nothing but you are updating this value every time, incrementing like +1 in C, right? So that's what we are doing, and then we'll print this count. So 0, 1, 2 are these outputs and the count is 3. What we'll do is we use f string over here. The total count is that. So as you can see, the range gives 0, 1, 2 and the count is incremented till 3 and the loop came out and printed this count is 3. So that's how the for loops works. This is all about fundamentals. So learn the basics and we will build on top of it. So what else is required for us? So we learned variables, data types, and we just saw conditional loops, control flow statements, right? We might write a lot of functions. We don't write a lot of code statically. Instead of that, we kind of write functions so that the functionality is dynamic and it can be applied for multiple use cases in your entire code. So that's how functions work. So it's reusable. It's a reusable code block, right? So they perform specific tasks specific input, and if you define something, it will work in that way. For example, if you turn on the switch for fan, the fan will rotate, and if you increase rotor for the knob, and the fan either speeds up or goes down, like AC temperature going up or down, something like that. So the syntax for this is you start with the def stands for definition, and the function name, for example greet, and the variable or arguments or parameters, whatever you call. Mostly people call these as arguments or parameters. So the name is one of the argument, and what we want to do is we want to say hello to that particular name. So we just saw f strings just before, and we are reusing that. So as you reuse these code blocks or code pieces and write for yourself, you learn so much deeply, and you can use it whenever you want. So keep practicing simple concept again and again, so that you can improve your skill of writing the code. So what we want to try is we want to greet Alice, so that this should print hello Alice, and whatever your name, greet your name, then hello your name. Okay. And we also see error handling, because we are humans, we make mistakes, and we don't want to break our code with a simple mistakes. And as we program, we have some vision, we know some conditions, and predefined set of things that work and not work. So based on that, we might set some rules and regulations or conditions, so that on any failure cases that we anticipated before, if that case occurs, then you can actually avoid that situation and continue executing the code with some kind of logic, right? So how you can do that? So you keep trying. If something fails on expected, then you accept that. Okay, so try accept is the syntax or code block that we use for that. We know something by zero is infinite, and that's a known error called zero division error, and it's all default in Python, but you can also create your own exceptions, and if you don't know that, also you can exclude this, and it automatically handles and gives you the error message that you write over here. So that's what we see. Let's start with the definition or function. So let's greet Alice. Yes, we have this hello Alice, and then we try this try accept block. So let's see, something by zero is division, so we have to see this particular output. As you see, it didn't fail, but you got this. But what happens if you don't have try? So you need to experience that for yourself. You try that, you learn by doing mistakes, and then you come up with a solution. So as you can see, 10 by 0 is failed to execute, and the return an error. So the traceback is the error. Zero division error is a known error, and given this, right? So it's pointing to this line where it has failed, and the failure reason is this. So we can use try and accept blocks for handling that. So we have try this except on this particular error, just print this. Let's do that again. As you can see, it got executed with print statement. So That's all about, for this lecture. So it's about just fundamentals that you might be using quite often when you're using your Python scripting, right? And so our aim is to get into Gen AI, right? So what are the libraries or tools that we use for AI? And the most popular ones are TensorFlow. This is coming from Google, and it's an open source library for both machine learning and deep learning. And PyTorch, this is a deep learning library by Meta. And we have scikit-learn, that's a machine learning library for efficient tools, provide simple and efficient tools for data analysis. Like, you can do classification task, regression task, supervised, unsupervised learning. So there are a lot of functions classes out there. You can use them directly and do machine learning very quickly. So I gave you some of the links here, so you can click on them and refer them. So this is our course, and this is a main Python website, this one. And I've given you this TensorFlow link. You check out. When we enter using one of these libraries, like either PyTorch or TensorFlow, we might be using this kind of code. So this is simple neural network, right? So this is for PyTorch, how to get started. There are a lot of features, and here in the document section you can try some different code blocks. And this is scikit-learn, where we have classification related algorithms and regression related algorithms and clustering related, a lot of out there, so you can try them out. And then that's all, like, that's where we stop here. Like, we have seen the basic syntax, variables, control flow, functions, and error handling. Okay, that skill you need to improve first. You practice this, you try these practice exercises, and keep that maybe in a notebook. And you can share that link with me in the comments, or discussion in the Kaggle. I will, what I do is I just review that and give you feedback. Okay, yeah, so that's where we stop. And I look forward for your comments and your code. And then we come back with the chapter 2. We dive deep into Python programming in the next lesson.